Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick, the person who created this report. It's alleged by the people I've been talking to that he set out with a preconceived agenda. And I can reveal here tonight that I've found out some of the members of a special secret advisory committee that Dr. Kirkpatrick used to advise him in the preparation of that report. I have their names, I have their roles, I know who they are. They are the gatekeepers, believe it or not, to this legacy program. They were quite literally pulling the strings on this AARO report.
Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel UFO World. My name is Laszlo and today we'll be discussing the report released by AARO on its UAP investigations. We will be uncovering some of the lies, as I'm sure there's a lot more, the inconsistencies, what this all means, and what the response to all this is. And before we do dive in, there is something towards the end which I will go through, which will give some perspective on progress and how it typically works in relation to UAP disclosure. Let's jump in. Firstly, shock, horror. Sean Kirkpatrick, former director of AARO, but still somehow their spokesperson, is of course at it again. AARO released the historical review report, which was meant to give us an overview of what they have potentially uncovered over the years. Basically, some truth, some acknowledgement. So this is the Pentagon's official method through AARO to bring to the public some clarity from an alien presence perspective to the UAP reverse engineering programs that are currently, or apparently, ongoing. So this was an opportunity for them to avoid war in many ways, to not kick a hornet's nest. And as we all know, they chose war. And to be honest, we all knew this, right? AARO and Kirkpatrick have not been the trusted advisors that we were led to think they would be. It's basically been Project Blue Book version 2. And this was apparent when they said in the report, AARO's mission is similar to that of these earlier organizations. So then and there, we kind of knew where they stood. But still, the implications of this report are damning. And I mean that through the DoD's and USG's perspective. And I'll break that down later on in the video. But firstly, let me just quickly summarize the main takeaways from this report. They basically said that aliens do not exist and everything we have seen in our skies has been either ordinary objects or misidentified. So nothing to see here. And this applies to obviously the trained observers and civilians. They even went as far in this report to include the Roswell story in there, reverting back to their old story that this is debris from balloons. And the UFO story there was not about UFOs. So they're saying Roswell, nothing to do with UFOs, even though contrary to that, we have a lot of information which strongly suggests that it was about UFOs. If we follow the paper trail, that becomes even more apparent as well. Now, when it comes to the secret reverse engineering programs, same pattern here. AARO stated that they found no empirical evidence for claims that the USG and private companies have been reverse engineering extraterrestrial technology, and that the interviewees mistakenly associated these authentic USG programs with alien and extraterrestrial activity. In fact, they had the audacity to pin it up on pop culture like TV and books and movies and social media, which they said has influenced the public conversation on this and reinforced these beliefs. Now, this goes completely against the claims made by David Grusch, Lue Elizondo, and various other whistleblowers and people through history that have leaked or confirmed otherwise. So, we can state right now that this is all horseshit, okay? We know this. Matthew Pine shared a really good summary on how this likely escalated. Do follow him on Twitter. He really summarizes this in a probably better detail than I do. But after requesting, so this is after AARO requested that they need to see full access to the SAP programs and the files. They contacted those in charge who supposedly run these programs, so the managers and staff, and they interviewed them supposedly in a classified setting and with a legal person present. Then they asked a question to them, okay? Right. Are these programs used for reverse engineering alien technology or studying biological materials? And Mr. Person who works at this place, have they not been reported? They said no, obviously. AARO then got them to sign a document. So this whole debunking procedure is on the foundation of these signed papers. But we do not know what was denied or asked in that questioning, or what loopholes were potentially exploited. Also, we do not know what legal power signing this statement from AARO even has. It could be more like a tick of a box, like we've done our job. We don't know like if it has any kind of subpoena power behind it, which means ultimately lying to these AARO investigators is not a crime, right? So they could just pay them off, give them what they want, blackmail them. This is obviously speculation, and just get them to sign this paper. Even if they know signing that paper is not truth, they know it's not a crime, so they can't get done by it. And based on AARO's behavior before of lying, how can we trust the word of a document signed where we don't have the full intelligence on this? I'll leave a link to Matthew's tweet and you can read through all of it yourself. But there are other elements in this report too which do not make sense. So they have admitted to creating UAP programs. So, I mean, the same old question, right? Why invest money into secret programs hidden away if they do not exist? Also, there was this tweet by Marek. Do follow him on Twitter as well, which is also another confirmation of AARO straight up lying. So as you can see, in the 1950s, the Air Force contracted scientists to review all UAP reports. AARO says that all cases that had enough data were resolved and explainable, which is blatantly a lie. So now they have ruined any hope of any whistleblowers definitely going forward to testify. They wouldn't have done this before, but now it's official. Sean Kirkpatrick has already thrown them under the bus, so he's going to do it again. But now it's front page news official. It was also stipulated, as you can see, that ORSAP and ATIP were not UFO programs in 2019. However, right now they are. Funny that, right? How goalposts can just move. They thought they could just slide that in and no one would notice. It's like they forgot the power of social media. It's very strange. Lue Elizondo responded, reaffirming his position on this whole matter, stating that the report released by AARO is intentionally dishonest, inaccurate, and dangerously misleading. He goes on to say the goal is to minimize congressional and public scrutiny and to cover the truth. Last bit is what we want to hear, that him and others will continue to help Congress to achieve disclosure. So, they had their chance, but they chose war. They did not even acknowledge anything, but instead criticized everything. It's crazy and shows you how deep this secret goes. And of course, they chose a select group of media houses in a disclosed setting. Like, what the fuck? Why have all this hush-hush if there's nothing to hide? These media outlets as well, like BBC, New York Post, Washington Post, they all went on a goddamn frenzy, all spilling the same story very quickly after the report came out. But they were extremely quiet when Schumer made his damning remarks in regards to the secrecy surrounding the pushback for the UAP amendment, weren't they? But suddenly, here they are, all guns blazing. So they are trying so hard to control the narrative, but it's just stupid because they are backing themselves into a corner. And I personally don't understand this strategy. Well, I can understand it because they're really trying to keep this under wraps, but it's not logical. It's like those pulling the strings are trapped in the past and they forgot the power of the internet and social media and how quickly people can cipher through this bullshit. And we're talking public shock at the confirmation of NHI, but the real shock really could be that the government's methods in hiding this truth from the public still to this day, even when they had ample opportunities to, give us snippets of information, they choose not to. AARO is the spokesperson, it's the ventriloquist for this, and this is how they're behaving. There are those who trust and love their country, and them not telling Congress is an act of criminality. That's what it is. They have broken their oath to tell the truth. And if we are to believe the reports, they have threatened, beaten, and killed in cases to keep this quiet. So not only are they backing themselves into a corner, but they are not taking into account the public retaliation at this. And the legacy media houses will fall as well, as they've been just as bad in driving this secrecy. They are part of the same narrative, and this doesn't really bode well for a country already in unstable times. But that isn't the people driving UAP's movement's fault. This is a need to know here. This is about humanity and us advancing as a species, and it's about us protecting ourselves. We don't know what the motivation of these beings are. I mean, I think they are good and bad, but clearly there is something ongoing. Opening up the world to the idea is a leap forward to understand this, to be proactive rather than reactive. It's about having an open forum for this conversation, or at least having this conversation not being held within a select group who so far have shown that do not have the US and the world's interests in their best thoughts. It's more about controlling the narrative, and it seems unlocking the potential for themselves as opposed to being open. And I'm not saying everything should be disclosed, as I'm sure some things need to be kept under wraps as a matter of national security. But this is different. This is about them trying to hide the last decade of activity. This is about them trying to hide their secrets and what they've been doing because they know it's been criminal activity. And this is also about the world governments acknowledging that there is NHIs and they have advanced tech. The US, due to how big it is, the pop culture around it, I believe can set this in motion. But then it could cause a lot of disruption, but maybe we need a revamp. So we saw Lue's tweet before, and he said an announcement for his book should be coming along shortly, which is great. But I want to talk about Ross Coulthart, okay? In an interview shortly after the report came out, he said he has the names and roles of members of the AARO's secret advisory committee that pulled the string on today's UFO report. He goes on to say that these are the gatekeepers in this legacy program, and people are angry and they're leaking to him right now, which is why he's come out with this. Ryan Graves also responded with dismay, completely refuting these claims and showing how disappointed he is with AARO. Then we have David Grusch. Ask a Poll, aka Matt Laszlo, cool name by the way, released a report that David Grusch is in talks with a UAP caucus member about becoming their congressional intel. What will this role be? Well, it will be to give him a place to park and have his security clearances, have them reinstated to help navigate the pathway to NHI presence and disclosure. And hypothetically, this is my theory, I also think he'll be trying to help bridge the gap between getting this across to the public properly and putting those holding this secret locked away and shamed while still trying to keep intact and keep the good ones there and the overall establishment. Somehow, anyway. Not sure how this would work, but as I said before, maybe a straight up revamp is needed to revolutionize this because clearly something is fundamentally wrong. But you could argue that it has been dictated by a select few, even if many were culpable in this. So yeah, I don't know how this will be possible because the facts are damning, but my gut tells me this will be part of his responsibilities. Now, if we look at all of this, we can see there has been a response for that. And I want to remind you all at the start of the video, I mentioned there was something that could give you some perspective on progress and how we envision it as well. And it's this, the plateau of latent potential. And this is typically how people view progress, okay? I want to give you an example. So a stonecutter is hitting away at that rock 100 times, bang, 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 without a dent. And then on the 101st hit, the rock splits in half. Now everyone celebrates the 101st hit because it's the moment of breakthrough. But it's the 100 hits before that that made the rock break. In terms of progress and performance, there is often a delay between what we think should happen and what actually happens. As you can see by this graph right now, the valley of disappointment, right? That's what we've been in for a long time, and we could still go through that, okay? But if you're overweight, it isn't like one day you wake up with biceps and abs, okay, the six-pack. This process takes time and effort. Your prior gym session was not the sole reason, and this approach applies to UAP disclosure, okay? So I think it's something we should hold on to because this is all leading up to something, a moment of breakthrough. We just need to keep pushing forward and we will get there, okay? So now what? Well, the next few days and weeks will be very interesting. I have heard that people are truly pissed off internally now, and I'm sure there are good people in AARO and the DoD, and these defense companies are frustrated with this, people inside there. This report tells all those to their face that they are lying. It's a big kick in the teeth. And from what I've seen in terms of the UAP messaging online, those pushing for UAP transparency, they will not back down. So any Pentagon officials watching this, ain't gonna work, buddy. It's not gonna work. It's nonsensical, actually, because you guys have nothing to fall back on. Their report stipulates it's on data and empirical evidence, yet they've left so much out, it's actually laughable. It makes sense that Sean Kirkpatrick wrote this. Let me know what you guys think about all this. I'm really curious to get your takes, as I may have missed some stuff out as well. And as always, if you did like today's video, would really appreciate a like, a comment, subscribe as well. That would be nice. And I'll see everyone next video. Take care.